the final round of the Formula 1 season, and we arrive at the Belgian Grand Prix, where it could not only be the final round of the Formula 1 season, but the final round of Formula 1 altogether for Ford, as they are now on the verge of leaving Formula 1. There are multiple reasons why Ford are currently on the verge of leaving Formula 1. One of those obviously being the fuel crisis, which has targeted motorsport, which has really damaged a lot of the automotive industry, especially those that are in Formula 1. But also the main reason for this is due to the lack of information and support from the FIA. Now, Ewan Wright, the team principal at Ford, has come out and said that the fact that the FIA are not showing any form of support or even any form of voice as to what's going on within the investigation itself believes to be that they have lost all trust and faith within the sport. Of course, we know that Ford's team headquarters was broken into. We know that specific files with regards to Ford's engine was stolen, and yet this has all come back to Red Bull, and yet there just seems to be no progress in the investigation, and it just feels like Ford are just being screwed over, and they feel that way, and they feel that their place is no longer worthy within the sport, and they think they can do better elsewhere. Ewan Wright does believe that Ford will leave at the end of the season. Of course, what that means for him as a team principal, we're not sure. Whether he wants to stay in Formula 1 but move to a different team, or whether this has all hit him as hard as he maybe thinks. We're not quite sure. But what we look like to be seeing is the end of Ford, unless something miraculous changes. As we move now to the news that's happening on the track, Red Bull, Mercedes and McLaren all took a session of being at the top of the timesheets, going fastest in the practice sessions. Mercedes were quickest in FP1, with McLaren fastest in FP2, with Red Bull hitting back in FP3. Ferrari were, however, slightly behind those front teams. But let's go and have a look now at what all the four championship contenders had to say about their practice sessions. Sam believes that he's got the car that is capable of winning the Belgian Grand Prix. Sam was very happy with his pace on Friday, and all the changes overnight made for FP3 have definitely made a better difference, and he believes that he has got a car that is more than capable of winning. Tom has admitted that he went the wrong way with his setup on Friday. The Renault driver decided to go ahead and try and compromise straight line speed to add a little bit more downforce, knowing full well that his power unit was one of the strongest out there. However, he felt that this was the wrong way to go, as he was still struggling to maintain a balance through the corners with a higher rear wing. So he switched back to a lower downforce spec, and hopefully that will be enough to get him right at the front. Lewis Hamilton was struggling to find some pace within his car. Hamilton's lap times were very consistent, whether that be on the short run and also on the long run. But this was still lacking a few tenths to the likes of Red Bull and McLaren, which is not what Lewis Hamilton needs. He wants to be at the front of those two teams if he's to have the best opportunity of getting anywhere near the World Championship. And finally, Reese is worried about Red Bull's pace in particular. He believes that Red Bull have got a brilliant car here at Spa-Francorchamps, and it's going to be very difficult to try and overthrow them. But this is it then. We've got one more race to determine a Formula 1 World Drivers' Champion. There are 4 drivers that are up for contention. Only one can win it, so let's go find out who that's going to be. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Fox98 here, and welcome back to a brand new video and another episode of the F1 Journey for the final time here on not only F1 Journey, but also on F1 2021. We obviously are very close now to F1 22, and this will be my last video on F1 2021. If you end up enjoying the video though, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well, as that really does help me out a massive amount. As we go on to our first flying lap here, it is currently third fastest, 6 tenths per second down on Mick Schumacher, but of course that is always our banker lap. But unfortunately, our banker lap's actually going to be our best lap, because we went out again for a second run and we just got everything wrong, to the point where we just didn't improve. We tried our hardest, but we just missed out, and unfortunately it's going to be P14 on the grid. Right, so here we are then on the grid for the final time here in season number 9, and it is the Belgian Grand Prix, and it's a one-stop strategy in this race. We're going to go from the soft tyres to the mediums and get ourselves to the end of the race. So here we go then. Let's get this final race underway. Here we go. 5 red lights for the Belgian Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go. And it's a bad start from us, actually. A lot of wheel spin there off the line. And a bit of contact there with Van Dorn as he steamrolls into the first corner. Van Dorn makes some contact there with one of the Mercedes-Benz. I think That was Sergio Perez that he's made contact with there. We're up into 12th place now. Make that 13th as Lando Norris passes us here. Going in towards Eau Rouge, nearly touching the back of him now. Up with Radion and down the Camel straight here. Now we can just unleash our straight line speed here. But it's been a scruffy old start for us so far. 3 abreast now going down the straight here is my teammate Gasly. I think that's Charles Leclerc there trying to get involved in the act as we go around the outside of Gasly and also Lando Norris there. Fantastic double overtake through there, and now we're trying to pass off Van Dorn, and we've got to pass Van Dorn quickly. Round the outside we go. That was a quite simple move there, as Van Dorn does have front wing damage, so I wanted to get in front of him and not compromise myself. But another man that's got front wing damage is Sergio Perez here. He actually got hit by Van Dorn and has taken front wing damage. There goes Charles Leclerc, blasting his way past Sergio Perez through Pouillon, and even though we had a horrible run through there, the understeer is just taking a massive effect there on the Mercedes, and we are through now into 9th place in this Grand Prix. Van Dorn and Perez now holding up the rest of the field as we can now try and breeze off with Charles Leclerc and catch up to Pato O'Ward, who's 2.1 seconds up the road now as we make our way down the straight now towards the Blanchimont on the bus stop chicane here. You can see the gap is dropping, but as we look further back though, there's a lot of carnage and chaos now as all these drivers here are trying to get past the 2 cars that have got front wing damage here. So Van Dorn now has been passed by Gasly. Norris is now going around the outside here into the bus stop chicane. It actually comes to no effect there because of course Van Dorn came into the pits anyway. So too did Sergio Perez as Russell now gets the run of Verstappen here down towards La Source though. Verstappen breaks a little later than George Russell. Russell though gets the exit off of La Source, but Verstappen has that outside line, uses the traction and also some of his ERS to his own effect here now as they go down towards Eau Rouge, side by side here. Go Verstappen and Russell up and running on, and now down the Camel straight. Nothing to separate these 2 drivers. The Audi and the Jaguar have been so competitive with each other this season. Not competitive at the front of the field where they have been in the past, just between each other as they now go through in towards the chicane here, and it's very difficult to see who's going to come out on top. But I think Russell has got us one in the bag, but Verstappen though still comes at him as they go now down in towards the middle sector here, the heart of it. Verstappen though just has that outside line and is able to take the position away from George Russell. Fantastic battling between the pair of them. But let's have a look at the race start now and see how things got on. So as the lights go out here, Sam actually didn't get a great start. It was De Vries that got the better of the starts, but Sam's got the inside line. I went to cover off Van Dorn, but both of our tyres made contact. His left front with my right rear, and it made that silly side pod glitch, or the contact glitch in the game. So I was aggressive on Van Dorn because I knew he was coming, but yeah, eventually when we touched, we just couldn't get off of each other. And this is kind of what it looked like here. So it's like at the run here, I'm covering off Van Dorn, and then we sort of just get stuck like that. Van Dorn then just steamrolls it, really doesn't quite know where to go or what to do there, and all he's going to do by stopping his car is by crashing it into another competitor, and that's unfortunately what he's done. This is Daniel Ricciardo now, and safe to say Ricciardo got a cracking start here. He gets past Pato O'Ward, gets past Mick Schumacher, dives it up the inside here of Lewis Hamilton, but eventually Hamilton gets the exit perfect from La Source there, and now down in towards Eau Rouge here. He's going to claim the high ground there and get in front of Ricciardo, but it's a competitive start though from Daniel Ricciardo. A couple of places gained for him off of that. Lap 3 of the Grand Prix now, and we've pretty much started to close the gap now between ourselves and the rest of the pack, myself and Leclerc that is. Leclerc though is going to struggle here now because I don't think he's got DRS. He doesn't. He is a couple of hundred shy of the DRS from Pato O'Ward, so we'll take that in advantage and go down the insides into Lecombe on Charles Leclerc, get the move done on the Audi driver, and we're through. Purple first sector, but we are now 1.4 seconds behind Pato O'Ward. So we've got a little bit of work to do to try and get onto the back of him as we now go on boards here further back down the field now. So we've got George Russell here under pressure from Carlos Sainz in the Porsche now as they go flying through Blanchimont now here. George, it looks like he's lost some places actually in all this. We remember he was fighting really hard here with Max Verstappen earlier on, but all of a sudden he's found himself at the back of the pack here with Sainz all over him as they go in towards the bus stop chicane on the exit. Russell should have the straight line speed here to get past Carlos Sainz, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as just a straight drag down the pit straight here. It's not. So Sainz now is going to have the better exit here from La Source, as they always do, because that outside line generates a bit more speed through the car. Now up Eau Rouge here, and in towards Ranion and the Kemmel straight here. This is going to carry on for a little bit longer, just like we saw with Max Verstappen versus George Russell. But unfortunately for Russell this time around, he's not going forwards, he's going backwards. None of them have got DRS yet on this opportunity. Bottas might just take this one here, down in towards the Lecombe chicane here. Sainz is through, Russell's struggling, Bottas is also ahead. So double disaster there for George Russell. He's lost a lot of places in that, and that for the Grand Prix now. This is the battle for second place here. This is championship contender Reese, who needs to make this move here on Nick de Vries, who's being a bit of a stumbling block now for Reese as they go in towards the Lecombe chicane. It's a great move around the outside for Reese. Can he make the job done though? Yes, he can. Reese has got the position. Now Hamilton fancies a run here on de Vries down the inside. Let's see if he can make this one stick. Hamilton will scrap this one out here with Nick de Vries as it has the outside line into no name. De Vries holds on in there. Now in towards Pouon they go. Will Hamilton have the run on de Vries, or will Nick just about be able to keep this going for a little bit longer in his favour? He does. De Vries keeps it going in his favour, but Hamilton is still right in there, right in the mix now through the chicane. This is risky stuff from Lewis Hamilton, but it's going to be beautiful. Is it? Yes, it is. Hamilton gets into third place, and all of a sudden, the 3 of the 4 title contenders occupy the top 3 places in this Grand Prix. Sam leads the race as things stand. Reese is currently in second and Lewis Hamilton is third. And as things stand at the moment, Lewis Hamilton is becoming Formula 1 World Champion yet again, unless we can get on with it, and that's what we're going to do here. As soon as I saw those battles going on up ahead and Hamilton clearing de Vries, I knew that de Vries doesn't quite have the race pace, whereas obviously we and the rest of the field do. And we're up into 7th place now in this Grand Prix, which does, I believe, give us 6 points compared to Hamilton's 15, which means that there's an 11-point swing, giving Hamilton the title by 5 points. So we need to get more points. In order to do that, we need to get more overtaking done. And crucially, we're going to be able to do that in a section of the track I like to call the straight, because I've set the car up for straight line speed. I'm not as quick as the AIs in the middle sector, and with the better battery that we've got on board our car, versus then having even greater straight line speed down the inside, there we go, on Mick Schumacher, that is what happens. We get the job done. Up into 6th place now in this Grand Prix, and that's 8 points coming into our name, which I believe is 7 points difference between ourselves and Hamilton. So as things stand, Hamilton is going to be the champion by a point. So we need to try and change that even more and make up another place here. Daniel Ricciardo is the man that we're going to have to next now as we open up the DRS here down the straight. Couple of drivers in the background there coming into the pits then for the first time in this Grand Prix. Down the inside, into that source we go on Ricciardo. Nice late braking manoeuvre, nice and fair though, and up into 5th place in this Grand Prix. And as now things stand, we will be winning the championship by 1 point. I don't think, I can't remember how far back Reese is in the championship actually, but I don't know if he is as close as, well, he's not as close as Hamilton is, but I can't remember how many points behind Reese is in the championship. So I'll have to bear that in mind. But we're coming into the pits down here at lap 8, the end of lap 8, start of lap 9 now, for our first and only stop of the Grand Prix. And the interesting feature now is what tyres are everybody going on. I'm going to go on to set the medium compound tyres. We've done 8 full laps on the soft tyres, which means we've pretty much got to do 12 to 13 laps on the medium tyres, which is more than doable. Hamilton goes to hards, Reese has gone to hards, we've gone to the medium tyres, but crucially, Lewis Hamilton has just jumped Reese there in the pits now, so Hamilton has gone from a net P3 up into a net P2 at Reese's expense, but crucially now, we are on the medium compound tyres, going to the end of this Grand Prix. That was close there between Lando Norris and Pato O'Ward coming out of the pits then. Who's going to come out on top through Eau Rouge and Ranion? Preferably, Lando Norris will want to be in front of all this because he's on those medium compound tyres. Better grip. Both of them should have DRS here from the Porsche car of, I think it's Carlos Sainz, and he's going to have that. Norris now. Oh, he gets blocked off though. Going in towards Lecombe. This is going to give Pato O'Ward a great chance now to get past Lando Norris, but he doesn't do it. That's a great shame there from Pato O'Ward. He had a great opportunity as now we've got our teammate Gasly here attacking O'Ward now down in towards Blanchimont. Let's see if Gasly can come out on top here. Straight line speed now for the Renault versus the McLaren. They've got the Porsche car though. That is a stumbling block. It is going to box in Pato O'Ward. Eventually it's going to then box in Gasly. It's going to do the boxing on everybody to be honest, but it's unfortunately O'Ward that comes out on top here. But lap 10 of the Grand Prix and things are going our way, and that's because Our medium tyres are fired up, and they are softer, and they are faster than the hard compound tyres. Now we're going to go on the attack here versus Reese. DRS is open down the Kemmel straight. Reese has got it too, though, on Lewis Hamilton. This is going to be a little bit difficult to get this one done here, but using every ounce of battery that we've got into the Lecombe chicane, we've got the job done on Reese. Reese tried to switch back his mind, but he's not made that one stick, and that's us up into third place now in this Grand Prix. Purple first sector, and look at all the different tyre strategies there. Sam on the mediums, Hamilton on the hards, Reese on the hards, we're on the mediums, De Vries behind us on the mediums. He's going to be a lot quicker in this Grand Prix, so that's going to be interesting later on, but I'm not bothered about later on. I'm bothered about getting past these hard tyre runners and getting a gap before they eventually start closing us back down, because they will have the durability at the end of the race. And there we go then, up past Lewis Hamilton and into second place in this Belgian Grand Prix. And as things stand, we will now be the World Drivers' Champion, despite the fact that Sam is leading and has the fastest lap to his name as lap 13 of the Grand Prix now. Here comes Reese on the attack versus Lewis Hamilton. We've seen these two drivers going hammer and tongs between the pair of them throughout the course of this season. Some classic duels between the two of them, and they're going to go for it again. Hamilton versus Reese, but it's Hamilton that'll leave Reese out to dry, and that's going to put him under pressure from De Vries, but De Vries is not close enough to go for any type of move here. Lap 13 of the Grand Prix though. We're 4.5 seconds behind Sam, and we are closing that gap now. So we've got a yellow flag in the background there, so somebody has got a problem. I'm not quite sure who it is. It's Hamilton. I'm not quite sure who it is. It's Lewis Hamilton who's got a problem, and he's going to be retiring for the Belgian Grand Prix. He is out, and there is the replay. Lewis Hamilton's Formula 1 World Title Challenge has come to a blow at the end of the final hurdle. His car has let him down, parking up on the start-finish straight for Hamilton. Our closest title rival is out of the Belgian Grand Prix. That is a disaster, but unfortunately for everybody else, in terms of Sam and Reese in the championship, as things stand, nothing is going to stop us from winning yet another Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship in the F1 Journey universe. And we're on to the last lap of the Grand Prix here, because unfortunately, this second stint was really quiet, actually. I tried to find battles from, obviously, the replay cams, but everybody was not really in any form of DRS train. Of course, De Vries was pressurising Reese, but he didn't have the pace to actually get past Reese. And as you can see now, Reese is currently 6.5 seconds clear of De Vries. And here on the last lap, the main priority for me was to just try and maintain the fastest lap bonus point here. You can see the gap to Sam is currently 4 seconds. The closest that I got to Sam was about 3.1 seconds. So the gap was 5.5 seconds when we came out of the pits. I got that gap down to 3.1. And obviously from then on in, Sam was able to just start picking up the pace a little bit. And I tried to push really, really hard. And I think, to be honest, I probably pushed a little bit too hard on my tyres. But you can see here how we're just struggling now for rear grip. But we're currently green in the middle sector here as we're trying to try and keep our fastest lap here. But Sam now, as you can see, 4.3 seconds ahead. But we're going to dump the battery now down at the final straight and through Blanchimont for the last time here in this Grand Prix. And for the last time in this series, you can see we've actually gained 2/10, look, showing the straight line speed that we got. But Sam is going to cross the line. He's going to win the Belgian Grand Prix. We're going to cross the line, though, to become champions of the world once again in the F1 journey. It's been a long time since we have become champion, but we are back on top in Formula 1, and it feels good to be back on top once again. Like I said, we've had plenty of opportunities to regain our crown over the past few seasons, but we've come just short. I think the last time we won the F1 Journey Championship was back when we were with Jaguar. I think was the last time that we did that, when we beat Sam head-to-head. Obviously, I had plenty of other opportunities, as stated, to become champion. Of course, last season for Renault, I threw it away, to be honest, and let Reese win. Of course, Reese has been double world champion for this time period. It's been a while, but I'm really happy, really glad to become world champion once again. And yeah, it was awesome. We just had the consistency all season long. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's have a look at the race results first, though. So Sam won the Grand Prix and got himself to 25 points, of course. We crossed the line in second place, 4 seconds behind in the end. We did set the fastest lap. I forgot to put 19 points on the board there, but I added 19 points in the final standing, so that's okay, which was enough to make us champion. Reese finishes the race in P3, 10.6 seconds off in the end. He made the wrong call to go onto the hard compound tyres. I think if he went onto the mediums, Rees really probably could have done something because he was quite quick actually, in fairness to him. De Vries finishes in P4 for Mercedes, a cracking end to the season for De Vries. Mick Schumacher crosses the line in P5 with Daniel Ricciardo finishing in P6. Lando Norris finishes the race in 7th for Jaguar. It's been a very difficult season for Jaguar, but Norris will be pleased with that one, as Pierre Gasly finishes in 8th place for our Renault team. Pato O'Ward crosses the line in P9, and Callum Ilott, surprise surprise, picks up a point for Ford in what could be their final race in Formula 1. We know that they're very much highly considering leaving the sport. Whether they do or not is another matter. But if they do, then they will leave with a point scored. So, you never know. You never know. But looking at the second half of the table now, Charles Leclerc misses out on the points for Audi. Coming across the line in P11, Sergio Perez with a quite sensational recovery. Actually, of course, Charles Leclerc was close to the top 10, and then the rest of the field were way off the pace. But fair play to Sergio Perez. He had damage on lap 1 with front wing collision from Stoffel van Dorn, and he's crossed the line to finish in P12, albeit 20 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, but still, and that would have been with another pit stop to do as well. Bottas finishes in 13th place for Porsche, ahead of George Russell, and when I say ahead of Carlos Sainz, I mean just ahead of Carlos Sainz. Valtteri Bottas finished 57.053 seconds off the lead. George Russell 57.074 seconds off the lead. Carlos Sainz 57.075 seconds off the lead. 1/1000th of a second between Russell and Sainz, and Bottas was 2/100ths of a second clear of those two. They went 3 abreast across the start-finish line. Theo Pourchaire finishes the race in P16 for Aston Martin, with Max Verstappen coming across the line in a dismal P17. I'm not sure what happened to Verstappen because he was the head of all of the chaos at the start, so I'm not quite sure where his pace dwindled to. Stoffel van Dorn in 18th place, that's understandable due to the front wing damage. Oscar Piastri finishes in 19th place, and Lewis Hamilton, the man that was the closest to competing for the championship to me, unfortunately was failed by his car. It's a DNF for Lewis Hamilton in the end, and that, as we'll now look in the Drivers' Championship, meant absolutely everything. So there it is. We are champions. 174 points to our name after the shortened 12 race season. Sam finishes second in the World Drivers' Championship, overtaking Lewis Hamilton and Rees in the end to come home in second in the championship. 164 points to his name, leaving him 10 points back in the championship. Rees finished third in this season's championship. Of course, Rees has won the previous 2 Formula 1 World Drivers' Championships. Unfortunately for him, it was not to be this season. He finished 18 points behind ourselves in the end. Lewis Hamilton, unfortunately, dropped to 4th in the championship after that DNF here today. He finished 25 points off of ourselves, and what a shame for Hamilton. What a real shame. He really gave it a lot this season. It wasn't a good start for Ferrari, but he put in some incredible races. In Imola, he was faultless. In Monza, he got the better of Rees. Of course, Rees had some great duels with Hamilton again in Austria, but Hamilton was one of those drivers, especially in this season, where he was consistent. I've got my spreadsheet up now of where Hamilton finished throughout the course of the season. So he finished in 3rd place, P10, 2nd, didn't score in Saudi, got 4th, victory, 3rd, victory, 6th, and then of course didn't finish in Belgium. So out of the 12 races, he missed out on the podium 8 times out of the 12, and scored. My maths is actually terrible. He didn't actually do that. I'm looking at the wrong thing there. But anyway, Lewis Hamilton was incredibly quick throughout the entirety of the season. So shame to see him finish in 4th there. Daniel Ricciardo was 5th in the championship, just beating Mick Schumacher in the end by 3 points. 93 points for Ricciardo and 90 points for Mick Schumacher. Pierre Gasly finishing 7th in the championship for Renault on 65 points. And then it's Pato O'Ward in 8th place for McLaren, 63 points to his name, with Sergio Perez P9, 60 points to his name in the end. So Gasly beats the best of the rest in the top 10 for his little category, should we say. And then Nick de Vries crept himself into the top 10 of the championship at Charles Leclerc's expense. He ends up with 50 points to his name. And now taking a look at the second half of the Drivers' Championship standings. Of course, I only show the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship standings throughout the course of the season. But of course, as the season is over, I'll always let you guys know how the rest of the field got on. So here it is. So Charles Leclerc finishes the championship in P11 for Audi. 48 points in the end. A very dismal season for Audi and also Jaguar, because the two teams are all closely followed by each other. Lando Norris finishes on 44 points, actually caught up quite a bit to Charles Leclerc in the end. Max Verstappen with 30 points to his name, and again, a very tough and treacherous season. Of course, we need to remember as well, what was more difficult for Verstappen is that in the Portuguese Grand Prix, in the second to last round, he picked up 15 points for finishing in P3. So throughout the course of the season, he only really gained 15 points throughout the whole of the season, bar one race where he picked up 15 points. So a really difficult season, and it would have put him level pretty much with George Russell. Russell only scoring 14 points this season. Callum Ilott and Oscar Piastri both picking up 7 points throughout the course of the season. However, Callum Ilott managed to get a better race result finish, picking up 6 points at the Bahrain Grand Prix, which is why he is in front of Oscar Piastri, and that's going to be more crucial when we see the Constructors' Championship in just a second. Carlos Sainz also picked up 2 points for Porsche. He was able to do that at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And then unfortunately for Van Dorn, Pourchaire and Bottas, the three of those drivers were not able to get themselves a point on the board after this shortened season. Looking then at the Constructors' Championship now, and not only was there a little bit of a twist, as I was talking about, between Ford and Aston Martin, thanks to the disaster that Ferrari had not only in the Portuguese Grand Prix with their strategy, but with Lewis Hamilton's DNF in the final round of the season, Red Bull have won the Constructors' Championship. They've overtaken Ferrari on the final race and they have beaten them by 3 points. Red Bull have got 257 points, Ferrari with 254 points. Ferrari have thrown the Constructors' Championship away. They've been controlling it throughout the majority of the season and they've lost it on the final race of the season. Disaster for Ferrari and elation for Red Bull, because they've had turmoil, especially between Sam and the team, but together they've somehow managed to win the Constructors' Championship. For ourselves in Renault, we came across the line in third in the championship on 239 points. McLaren, the team that have won the past two Constructors, only good enough for fourth this season, 219 points they scored. Mercedes were fifth in the championship in the end on 110 points, after McLaren sort of got their act together after a difficult start to the season and pulled away from Mercedes. Mercedes were left in a world of their own. They're always going to finish fifth, and it's been a good recovery from them. Of course, Mercedes finished seventh in the Constructors' Championship last season and were well behind the likes of Audi and Jaguar, as well as the other four teams in front of them. But they've managed to do a good job this season and they've managed to get in front of Jaguar and Audi. The aim for them now is going to be, in the new era of Formula 1, to get ahead of the top four teams if possible. Audi, unfortunately, don't beat Jaguar. It's Jaguar that beat Audi. Audi finished on 62 points. Jaguar managed to have 80 points. And Ford jump in front of Aston Martin, as I said, of course, with Callum Ilott picking up 6 points in one event versus 4 points in a separate event for Oscar Piastri. Ford managed to get a stronger race result finish, meaning they beat Aston Martin in the championship on the final race of the season. And Porsche, unfortunately, finished last in the championship, 2 points to their name. But that is it for the F1 journey for yet another season. But of course, we've still got the post-race notebook to look at and see what the teams and drivers had to say after an enthralling season of Formula 1. Taking a look at the post-race notebook for the final time, and Tom has won the Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship, leaving him lost for words at the end of the Grand Prix. Of course, Tom has been in championship contention for multiple seasons, but has been falling short the past few seasons, and thanks to hefty competition from the likes of Charles Leclerc in the past, Rees, Sam, and even this season with Lewis Hamilton coming into the title picture, it's not been easy at all, but pure consistency throughout the course of this season has been able to allow him to take yet another World Drivers' Championship. Sam was the victor at the Belgian Grand Prix, with Rees finishing in P3. Lewis Hamilton was fortunate enough to take a DNF here today. Those results for those three drivers were not enough to give them the Drivers' Championship. Sam has actually gone ahead and blamed Red Bull for his defeat in the Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship. He claims that with everything that's happened this season, Red Bull are the people that need to be blamed, not himself. Sam states that he's been faultless throughout the course of this season, and issues internally and with his own teammates have cost him this World Championship. Rees admits the McLaren dropped the ball this season, and that has left them very much on the back foot throughout the course of this season, with multiple reliability issues coming into play. Examples of this was at the Chinese Grand Prix in the first round of the season, when he was running in second and DNF'd from the race. Of course, Rees has been the world champion for the past 2 seasons now, and McLaren have been Constructors' Champions for the past 2 seasons. But this season, Rees finishes the championship in 3rd place, with McLaren only good enough to get 4th in the Constructors' Championship. Rees believes that McLaren felt too concrete with the fact that they were the strongest team, that because they'd won the previous 2 World Championships, they felt almost invincible when they knew at some point they were going to get overthrown. And then lastly, Lewis Hamilton was not able to speak to his team after the DNF. Of course, Lewis Hamilton has really dragged that Ferrari through thick and thin to try and get a World Championship with the Scuderia, and he pulled off some epic races such as Imola in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, such as Monza, so he won twice in front of his home crowd, doing all of that only for his car to let him down. But there it is, guys. There is another season of the F1 journey fully complete for you guys. Season number 9. Unfortunately, it was shorter than what I'd anticipated it to be, but with the early release of F1 22 being, well, much earlier than I would have anticipated, of course, it had meant that I had to take some measures to shorten the season. But nonetheless, we got a good season in, and even though it was only 12 races, it was still a very, very fun and exciting set of races for you guys. I look forward to joining you once again for a new season of the F1 journey in a new era of Formula 1 on F1 22 in the near future. But for now, guys, I'm out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Take care all. Peace.